Welcome back, everyone, to the Abundance Formula podcast. We've had a whirlwind of the past few weeks of episodes. They've all been really deep and super informative and super tactical. And so, this episode, I wanted to lighten it up a little bit with something that feels a little less heavy, but yet is still going to be very helpful and totally piggybacks upon the last episode and all of the preceding episodes of how we're really building this momentum towards creating the life you want, living at your best, performing at your best, and making the greatest impact and abundance you can really achieve. So, this episode is going to be really fun. This one, the idea spurred from I've been doing this practice all last year that I learned from Brendon Bouchard. I'm sure all of you have heard of him. He's a huge personal development guru, speaker, incredible. And so, I learned from him this practice. He refers to it most often as like this a future self practice, which since we've been doing all this identity work, it really is an identity change tool. He doesn't call it that. He calls it the future self practice because I'll explain in a minute what it is. But it really is, since we've been on this really deep identity change tool, because it's really the deepest foundational place that you need to start to get where you want to go. And to the highest level. So this is the future self practice, but it's really an identity change tool. And I'm going to tell you what it is so that you can start to do it. It's not a hard thing to do and it's very fun. And 6 reasons why it works, because I know some of you listening, if you're anything like my husband, you're going to be like, what? I'm not doing that. But here's why it works. And it makes so much sense. I'm personally someone that likes to know that too. What is the science behind why I'm doing this? And it's not just another thing to be doing. So this is why I'll explain 6 reasons why it's crucial to this base identity work, which is, I think we've proven why this is so integral to the results you want to get in the previous episodes. So the future self practice is pick 3 words that could describe something that your future self, we've talked about this in the past episodes, what does the future you look like in 5 or 10 years that has the life you want to create, is doing the things you want to do, that is the person you want to be, that has the things you want to have. And we've gotten really deep in past episodes on really identifying who that person is and how they are and their personality and how they live their life. So what are 3 words, pick only 3, narrow it down to 3 words that are aspirational words that you want to choose, that you want to work on to embody that version of you today. So you're going to pick things that future you has that are things you need work on. And so they're things you want to intentionally build in yourself now, because we can be that future us today. We just have to have our awareness around what it is we need to do and be that. So for me, the 3 words that I have chosen are bold, curious, and generous, or bold, curiosity, and generosity. So pick 3 words, and then you're going to set them as alarms in your phone with the label being those 3 words. So in my phone, I have some alarms set, and the label for those alarms are bold, be bold, be bold, curious, and generous. That's what every single one of those says. Same thing. And I have it in all caps, be bold, curious, and generous. And you're going to set those alarms to go off 3 or 4 times in your day. So I basically have mine go off every 4 hours or so, depending on how long each of you are awake and how early you get up. I get up really early, so I can fit it in 4 times, and it's very evenly spaced. And I try to have it hit me when I know I'm not typically in the middle of a client or something, when I can actually pick up the phone, and I have it on vibrate. You could have it on a ring, whatever it is, but you have it set the alarm, and it's going to make you pick up the phone. You're going to read the words, think on the words for even just a moment, reflect on those words, and then you can turn off the alarm. And it's going to do that 3 or 4 times a day. So why does this work? Why is it an integral identity tool? So number 1, it shifts you from goal-based change to identity change. I don't know why I'm stumbling on my words today. It's because I'm hungry, and so my brain is going slow. So it shifts you from goal-based change to identity-based change. So the brain doesn't run on outcomes, it runs on identity cues. So when you choose 3 words that describe your future self, they could be the ones I picked, they could be grounded, bold, present, leader. Pick your 3. You force yourself to ask a question during the day. in the back of your mind without consciously asking. You're basically asking yourself every time you open this alarm to turn it off, who am I being right now? Because when I look at those three words, it makes me think as I read, be bold, be curious, be generous. It makes me take a quick assessment like, have I been bold so far today? Am I being bold right now? Have I been curious today? Have I been generous? It makes you do a little self-reflection. Even if it's not on purpose, that's just what it cues your brain to do. Who am I being right now? So that's powerful because identity drives behavior, which we've talked about in the previous episodes. Behavior reinforces identity and repetition locks it in neurologically. So this is why it's important. So instead of forcing actions, you start acting in alignment with who you believe you're becoming. This makes it so much easier than forcing it. You're not trying to do actions, you're becoming something, you're being someone. So number 2, the alarm interrupts autopilot. We talked about this a few episodes ago, that we can pretty much live most of our days unconsciously if we're not trying to be intentional, if we're not thinking about it. So this alarm acts as a pattern interruption. Every time it goes off, your nervous system gets a moment of self-awareness. You ask yourself, if one of your words is calm, am I being calm? Am I embodying confidence? If confidence was your word, what would focused look like in this next moment if that was one of your words? So that micro pause is where transformation happens, especially as it's repeated over time. And it's digestible. We've talked about this in our past habits episode. Like you're not trying to change your entire life in a moment. You're changing the next decision by becoming grounded after this alarm goes off in who you want to be. Number 3, it trains your reticular activating system, your RAS. I'm sure if any of you have been listening to personal development for a while, this is a very popular topic. And it basically is how your brain filters information based on what it thinks is important, what you've told it is important. So by repeatedly exposing your mind to these 3 identity words, your brain starts noticing opportunities to act as that person. Your brain becomes more aware when you're acting out of alignment with those 3 words, and you can start spotting evidence that reinforces that identity in your day-to-day. So example, if your word was leader, one of the words was leader, then you'll suddenly start noticing moments that you could speak up, or ways that you could model calm to your kids or leadership to your kids, opportunities to take responsibility instead of deferring it to somebody else. You didn't become a leader, you noticed how to be one. Number 4, it creates emotional rehearsal, which rewires the brain faster. So when you see the word and feel into it for even 5 or 10 seconds, your brain practices being in that emotional state. Neural pathways associate with the identity and it makes it stronger. And the body learns that felt sense of the future you. So this is the same mechanism that like elite athletes use for visualization. This is why visualization works, is you don't just try to picture the future you try to make it as real in every sense that you can. Be there, look through the eyes of the you in the visualization, feel the feelings you're wanting to feel. These elite athletes feel what it is they're wanting to, how they're wanting to perform, how their body feels, how they see the course, how they're coming around the final curve, how they're pushing to the end, like all the things, anything they can feel. They want to visualize it to the fullest sense. So even when we do this in small increments of 5 to 10 seconds, multiple times a day, feeling into these words for a moment and having this grounded self-awareness of, am I being this today, right now? Have I been this up to this alarm point? Really makes a big difference. Number 5, it builds self-trust through micro-alignment. So last episode, we talked about the value of the micro wins, the 1% compound effect. But every time you respond to the alarm by choosing alignment into your 3 words, even subtly, you're keeping a promise to yourself. You experience agency over reaction, and you reinforce, I am someone who lives intentionally. That compounds fast. You don't need perfection, you need frequency. And even science shows this. Neuroscience shows this. So in the beginning, it may feel like a conscious effort, but before you know it, being that, you are that. And then that's when, as you feel like now you are bold, you are curious, you are generous, then you can, as you feel like you fully embody that naturally and organically, then you can pick a new set of 3 words, and those become your new target goal. As you grow into each new season, you might need that. That's why I like to call them your 3 aspirational words. So if you feel like you've kind of conquered a few, the 3 you picked, all right, now you're continuing to progress into that future higher version of yourself. Okay, what other things does she have that I feel like I don't quite have yet and I need to really work on? What do I aspire, what parts of her do I aspire to be, or him do I aspire to be like? Pick 3. So you need frequency to reinforce this, and then you will become that identity and can move on to more attributes of that identity. So number 6, why only 3 words? Why not 10? Why not 1? Okay, 3 is a sweet spot because it's memorable, it doesn't overwhelm the nervous system, and you can hold it in working memory during decision making. So more than that turns into noise, less than that lacks dimensionality, and 3 words can be a felt identity. Less, not so much. 3 can, but yet too many feels like a checklist. So 3 is the sweet spot. And it's interesting too, just because it makes you really practice. Because I had like, I struggled. I had 5 that felt really good. I'm like, these 5. But then I'm like, but 5, I even tried to use the 5, like follow the practice and use the 5 instead of 3, as was recommended. And it didn't feel the same. I was like, I need to do it the way he said to do it. Because obviously that's how he coaches his high performers. Like, I got to do it the way he said to do it. So I narrowed it down to the 3. And it's just that next level investment. It's just that next level bit of clarity. And the clearer you can get on what are the 3 things you need to become most right now. What does that feel like? That needs to be of that future you. Narrow it down to the 3. Once I did that, it felt so much different as those alarms went off. And it was more digestible and doable and memorable. And I was reading, telling you just from the science of it, that you can think of those 3 words during the decision-making process, as opposed to when you've got 10 or even you've got 5, it's just too hard. And I tried it. Trust me, I tried it because it's hard. It's a skill to narrow it down to 3, but that's also part of the work. So this is just a simple, fun. It really is fun. It's fun to, at least for me, it's fun to sit there and think about my future self and different attributes of her, things I feel like I currently have that are strong suits, and things I know I need to embody more of that to get to the next level. And it's totally in there. I've got to commit to it and practice it and not forget about it and not be on autopilot. And so to me, that was fun. Seeing what even what the top 5 were was fun. And then narrowing it down to the 3, and then making sure every week and every day I see how I'm going to work that in. If it's something that has to be planned or intentional, like something I need to do that I'm like, okay, I don't want to do that, but I need to do that this week. And that's bold. And I am bold. Or how to be curious. If I'm like, I know I'm going to have to do XYZ this week. It's easy for me to keep conversations minimal, but I need to be curious about other people this week. Or if it's generosity, I need to think, okay, this month, I need to make sure, what am I doing that's generous? And pick a charity or pick an outreach or pick things like that. And just look in each day for the small things. What could I do that's generous for somebody? So it's fun. That was fun to me. And then it's been fun as these alarms go off. I basically tried to like mine basically goes off every 4 hours from the time I wake up. So pick your frequency, have it be at least 3 times. It can be more depending on how long you're awake, and give it a try. It's a lot of fun. It's a really great reminder, and it really will change the way that you live on the day-to-day by just setting these alarms. So give it a try. Let me know what you think, and we'll catch you on the next one. Bye.